buy Bitcoin now or wait for an even deeper dip? The answer is simple. Buy Bitcoin now, but let me tell you why that is the answer. So statistically, it is always better to buy an asset that you know is going to go up as compared to waiting for it to dip even lower, especially when that asset is already significantly on sale. So you can upload the entire price history of Bitcoin to ChatGPT, which I have done, and you can ask it questions like, hey, when Bitcoin is down 33.5%, which it is right now as I record this, at $84,000, Bitcoin is down 33.5%. So you can say, look, when Bitcoin is down 33%, what is the probability it goes down an additional 4% or 5% or 10%? What's the probability it goes from 33.5% down to 40% down? And ChatGPT will tell you the probabilities of each of those things happening. And then you can ask ChatGPT, what would that probability have to be in order for it to make sense, potentially missing out on the upside of Bitcoin? And it will tell you unequivocally 100% in all situations that you should not wait for a greater dip. It'll tell you that the probability, I'm making these numbers up, but it'll say something like this. When Bitcoin is down 33.5%, on average, it goes down an additional 5%, 50% of the time. I'm making up numbers, 50% of the time. But in order to miss out on the future upside of Bitcoin, it would need to do that 80% of the time. Whatever those two numbers are, they're always separated, not in your favor, meaning the probabilities are always against you, waiting. So you should not wait to buy Bitcoin. Now, there's one exception to that, which is if you're buying Bitcoin with borrowed money, which you should not do, and I do not recommend, but I'm going to tell you why there is an exception related to that. But statistically speaking, you are always better off buying Bitcoin right now as opposed to waiting. And that has been true for the entirety of Bitcoin's price history. Throughout every Bitcoin dip, tons of people miss out because they're all waiting for a bigger dip. And the bigger dip either doesn't come, in which case they're left on the sidelines, or the dip comes, but as soon as the bigger dip comes, they're convinced that an even bigger dip is around the corner. So right now, there's a bunch of people that told themselves, if Bitcoin ever drops below $85,000 again, I'm buying some. Well, guess what? It is. It's down at 84. Most of the people who promised themselves they're going to buy Bitcoin at 85,000 are not buying it right now at 84. They have updated their thinking to determine that they need to wait until it's $80,000. Now, why is that? Why is that? Because it's scary to buy something when it's dropping. The best time to buy an amazing asset that will change the world and make you a ton of money is when it's on sale. The problem is when it's on sale is the scariest time to buy it because it's dropping. So a lot of people are, they're going to say, well, I'll buy it at 80. And then if it hits 80, they're going to say, I'll buy it at 75. And then it either never hits 75, or if it does, they drop their number to 70,000. Then Bitcoin takes off and goes to 140. And instead of doubling their money, they're sitting around there waiting for a $70,000 that'll never happen. This happened in 2022. Everybody on Twitter was convinced Bitcoin was going to drop to 13,800. That was the magic number. Everybody and their dog on Twitter was bragging about how much Bitcoin they were going to buy when the price hit 13,800. Well, guess what? The price never went below 15,500. So they could have had an unlimited amount of Bitcoin at 15,500. Prices below 16,000, unlimited Bitcoin. Prices below 14,000, a zero Bitcoin. You could not buy Bitcoin as cheap as they wanted to buy it. So I'm sitting on 500% returns from the Bitcoin I bought below $16,000. All these idiots on Twitter are sitting on zero returns. Now, those statistical probabilities are the same even if you plan to buy Bitcoin later. So if you ask ChatGPT and you say, what if what are the probabilities if I wait? What if I wait for $5,000 cheaper? But if the price takes off, I'll buy it again at 95. There's no way you can game the math. The math is the math. The math is going to tell you that you should buy Bitcoin now. Statistically speaking, you are significantly better off, between 4x to 6x probability of better off, meaning you are between 4 times and 6 times as likely to be better off buying Bitcoin now as opposed to waiting for a dip, because that dip, and that assumes you even buy the dip if you're waiting for the dip. That most people don't even buy the dip they claim they were going to buy, meaning they end up even worse off than the statistics would say they were. Okay, so the one exception is if you are buying Bitcoin with borrowed money, then you really do need a cheap price. If you're buying Bitcoin that with money that you actually own, then now is a fantastic price, and I would convert any US dollars I could into Bitcoin right now at this price. And I already have. That's why I have no US dollars. And nothing else I can easily sell to turn it into US dollars. The exception is borrowed money. If you are borrowing money, if you're borrowing against a 401k, or if you're borrowing against Bitcoin to buy more Bitcoin, which you should not do, although I'm about to do that, but you should not do that, then you really do need a cheap price, because if you're borrowing money, then you end up with a liquidation price, and you do not want your Bitcoin to get liquidated because the price dropped below whatever the triggering price is. If somebody came to me right now and said, I'm considering borrowing money to buy Bitcoin, I would say, you really need a rock bottom price, like below $80,000 and maybe below $75,000 if you are buying Bitcoin with borrowed money, which you should not do. I do not recommend it. I do not recommend buying any investment with borrowed money. So if you have money that is not borrowed money, I would buy Bitcoin with it right now. If you have money that is borrowed money, or that you have access to borrowed money, again, I would only buy Bitcoin with borrowed money if the price was really, really sort of ridiculously on sale. And right now the price is just less than ridiculously on sale, and there's no guarantee it will get ridiculously on sale. So I would say as soon as the price starts with a 7 instead of an 8, meaning the price is in the 70,000s instead of 80,000s, that's ridiculously on sale. So I will probably borrow against a tiny fraction of my Bitcoin to buy some more Bitcoin if the price drops to 70,000. But again, that's only because it's borrowing against Bitcoin to buy more Bitcoin. And when you do that, you really do have to have a very low price so that the prices at which you get liquidated are ridiculously low. So why is Bitcoin down today? Global everything. Greenland, is the U.S. going to invade Greenland? There's a bunch of just insanity on the news right now. Just insane stuff that seemed completely out of the realm of possibility that somehow is getting talked about now. Everybody's freaking out. Everybody's panicking. Everybody's selling everything. It's just a madhouse of insanity right now. In the short term, stupidity drags down Bitcoin along with everything else. In the long term, Bitcoin rebounds faster, and Bitcoin is actually a hedge against stupidity. It's a hedge against currency debasement. It's a hedge against inflation, and it's a hedge against politicians doing stupid stuff, which is why I sleep great at night owning 100% Bitcoin, because no matter what stupid stuff world leaders do, I don't have to care, because it's long-term. Bitcoin's going to keep going up no matter what stupid stuff they do. That is not the case for a lot of assets where global stupidity can have significant, serious effects on investments. But that's why I don't own the investments that can happen to. So anyway, I think now is a fantastic time to buy Bitcoin. I think waiting for prices to go lower is a fool's errand. That doesn't mean they won't. It just means if they do, you probably still won't buy it at the cheaper price, because you'll make up an even lower, cheaper price that you want to buy it at. Or the price will never touch whatever magic price it is you feel like it has to hit for it to be as on sale as you want it to be. So right now, Bitcoin is down at, when I started this video, the price was $84,000, which means the price was down 33.5%. Could it go lower? Yes. But statistically, it's not likely to go lower statistically high enough to be worth waiting. That statistical probability is not in your favor. Again, doesn't mean you can't win with bad odds. It just means, why would you take that risk? Why would you try to get Bitcoin 5% cheaper than today and miss out on 2,000% upside? Right now, Bitcoin needs to 20x. You need to make 2,000% return in order for Bitcoin to match gold. Even for Bitcoin to match the price of gold, literally the yellow shiny rock, Bitcoin needs to go up by 20x. So 2,000% return, and somebody's messing around trying to buy it 5% cheaper. I'm like, seriously, you're trying to buy it 5% cheaper, and you're willing to miss out on a 2,000% return in order to buy it 5% cheaper. It makes zero sense, again, unless you're buying Bitcoin with borrowed money, in which case you really do want a rock solid. You want a really, 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 really low price, or just don't buy it at all. If you're using borrowed money, it's got to be, bottom of the barrel cheap, or you just shouldn't do it. Which again, as long as you're not using borrowed money, then that logic does not apply, and you should buy it at today's price because it's radically on sale. So I think Bitcoin is a fantastic on sale opportunity right now. I don't know if it'll go lower or not. I just know it's radically on sale, and waiting for prices to go even lower than low is just a fool's errand. Don't do that. People burn themselves all the time playing those games. Don't play those games. It's on sale. Take take advantage of something that's insanely on sale right now, and don't get greedy and try to wait for something lower.